The airlock hisses closed behind me, and the familiar hum of the oxygen recirculator fills my helmet. I check my suit gauge pressure stable, temperature in range, and move towards the control station. The monitor lights up with a green confirmation that the next shift is ready to start. My fingers glide over the keyboard, entering codes for system diagnostics. Data streams across the screens. Atmospheric pressure ratios, biome indicators, and extraction yield projections. Everything looks nominal, as it should every day. Outside the observation window, the PDA station glows faintly under a canopy of bioluminescent vines. The light filters through the leaves, casting shadows on the metal framework. I adjust my settings for optimal visibility, then tap into the external cameras to survey the immediate area. The terrain outside is dense with vegetation, but the drones have already cleared a narrow path leading to the extraction site. The ground looks like it's covered in a fine layer of moss and fallen leaves, with intermittent patches of bare earth where the soil has been scraped away. I activate the audio feed from the extraction team. Nothing out of the ordinary. Their voices are calm and methodical as they report on equipment checks and initial readings. I jot down any discrepancies in my log, but mostly just verify that everything aligns with the projected models. The day's schedule is tight, so there's no time to linger. I push the start button for the day's operations, and the station hums back into full activity mode. The airlock opens again, this time admitting the team from the surface. They move through the chamber in a practice rhythm, exchanging brief nods with me before heading up to their quarters to prepare. I monitor their progress via surveillance feeds until they reach their designated areas. Once everyone is settled and ready, we proceed according to protocol. The drones lift off from their charging stations and begin their programmed survey of the site. The cameras feed live footage back to my monitors, showing the drones hovering over a section marked for extraction. The team outside deploys the machinery, excavators with delicate claws designed not to harm the surrounding flora. They work meticulously, following the pre-arranged grid patterns laid out in our models. The noise of gears and hydraulics mixes with the occasional rustle of leaves as the machines move through the underbrush. I keep a close eye on the data streams coming from the site, adjusting parameters to optimize yield ratios. The screens display graphs and charts updating in real-time tons per hour, extracted biocore stability indices, and efficiency scores against projected targets. The extraction process is fluid and efficient, with no hitches or delays reported by the team. They communicate seamlessly, their voices steady and controlled as they relay information back to me. I respond promptly, making any necessary adjustments to maintain optimal performance. As the day progresses, I review system logs and maintenance schedules. Everything runs smoothly, but I still make notes of minor issues that might need addressing later wear on certain parts. Slight variations in output efficiency compared to model predictions. These are just routine concerns, nothing alarming or unexpected. The work is methodical, each task following the established protocols without deviation. There's a rhythm to it, all the hum of machinery, the steady flow of data, and the disciplined movements of the team on the ground. I take a break from my scheduled meal, eating from pre-packaged rations while reviewing upcoming plans. The station is quiet during this time, everyone focused on their assigned tasks without unnecessary chatter or distraction. After finishing my meal, I return to monitoring operations. The drones and machinery continue their work with precision, the data streams showing consistent performance metrics. The extraction site remains within safe parameters, and we're meeting our yield targets as planned. The day winds down as scheduled, with all equipment shutting down for maintenance checks before the next shift begins. I review final logs and send off a summary report to Central Command, noting any minor adjustments needed for tomorrow's operations. As I finish up, I check one last time that everything is in order before signing out of my station. The airlock opens, admitting fresh relief from another successful day. The routine feels familiar, each step fitting into the larger framework without question or deviation. Efficiency governs every action, and there's no reason to think otherwise. The day begins with the usual checklist. Each item, a familiar step in a well-oiled machine. I start by donning my environmental suit, fitting it snugly over my body, as though it were an extension of myself. The helmet clicks into place, sealing out the unfamiliar and leaving only the sterile air inside to breathe. My tools are ready on the workbench: wrenches, screwdrivers, a diagnostic scanner all laid out in their designated places. I pick them up one by one, each tool feeling familiar in my hands. The first task is the airlock hisses closed behind me, and the familiar hum of the oxygen recirculator fills my helmet. I check my suit gauges pressure stable. Temperature and range and move towards the control station. The monitor lights up with a green confirmation that the next shift is ready to start. My fingers glide over the keyboard, entering codes for system diagnostics. Data streams across the screens. Atmospheric pressure ratios, biome indicators, and extraction yield projections. Everything looks nominal, as it should every day. Outside the observation window, the PDA station glows faintly under a canopy of bioluminescent vines. The light filters through the leaves, casting shadows on the metal framework. I adjust my settings for optimal visibility, then tap into the external cameras to survey the immediate area. The terrain outside is dense with vegetation, but the drones have already cleared a narrow path leading to the extraction site. The ground looks like it's covered in a fine layer of moss and fallen leaves, with intermittent patches of bare earth where the soil has been scraped away. I activate the audio feed from the extraction team. Nothing out of the ordinary. Their voices are calm and methodical as they report on equipment checks and initial readings. I jot down any discrepancies in my log, but mostly just verify that everything aligns with the projected models. The day's schedule is tight, so there's no time to linger. I push the start button for the day's operations and the station hums back into full activity mode. The airlock opens again, this time admitting the team from the surface. They move through the chamber in a practiced rhythm, exchanging brief nods with me before heading up to their quarters to prepare. I monitor their progress via surveillance feeds until they reach their designated areas. Once everyone is settled and ready, we proceed according to protocol. The drones lift off from their charging stations and begin their programmed survey of the site. The cameras feed live footage back to my monitors, showing the drones hovering over a section marked for extraction. The team outside deploys the machinery, excavators with delicate claws designed not to harm the surrounding flora. They work meticulously, following the pre-arranged grid patterns laid out in our models. The noise of gears and hydraulics mixes with the occasional rustle of leaves as the machines move through the underbrush. I keep a close eye on the data streams coming from the site, adjusting parameters to optimize yield ratios. The screens display graphs and charts updating in real-time tons per hour extracted, biocore stability indices, and efficiency scores against projected targets. The extraction process is fluid and efficient, with no hitches or delays reported by the team. They communicate seamlessly, their voices steady and controlled as they relay information back to me. I respond promptly, making any necessary adjustments to maintain optimal performance. As the day progresses, I review system logs and maintenance schedules. Everything runs smoothly, but I still make notes of minor issues that might need addressing later wear on certain parts. Slight variations in output efficiency compared to model predictions. These are just routine concerns, nothing alarming or unexpected. The work is methodical, each task following the established protocols without deviation. There's a rhythm to it, all the hum of machinery, the steady flow of data, and the disciplined movements of the team on the ground. I take a break for my scheduled meal, eating from prepackaged rations while reviewing upcoming plans. The station is quiet during this time, everyone focused on their assigned tasks without unnecessary chatter or distraction. After finishing my meal, I return to monitoring operations. The drones and machinery continue their work with precision, the data streams showing consistent performance metrics. The extraction site remains within safe parameters, and we're meeting our yield targets as planned. The day winds down as scheduled, with all equipment shutting down for maintenance checks before the next shift begins. I review final logs and send off a summary report to Central Command, noting any minor adjustments needed for tomorrow's operations. As I finish up, I check one last time that everything is in order before signing out of my station. The airlock opens, admitting fresh relief from another successful day. The routine feels familiar, each step fitting into the larger framework without question or deviation. Efficiency governs every action, and there's no reason to think otherwise. The day begins with the usual checklist, each item a familiar step in a well-oiled machine. I start by donning my environmental suit, fitting it snugly over my body as though it were an extension of myself. The helmet clicks into place, sealing out the unfamiliar and leaving only the sterile air inside to breathe. My tools are ready on the workbench: wrenches, screwdrivers, a diagnostic scanner roll, laid out in their designated places. I pick them up one by one, each tool feeling familiar in my hands. The first task is checking equipment status. I walk down the corridor towards the control room. Each step feels familiar underfoot. The door sensor recognizes me and silently opens. Screens light up with steady readings. Nothing needs immediate attention. I log everything as normal and send a report to headquarters. Next, I check the safety systems. I inspect each monitor and alarm, ensuring they can activate in emergencies. Though simple, this task is crucial and completed meticulously. At lunchtime, I take my standard meal from the cafeteria and eat alone at my designated seat. Everyone else is busy too, none looking up to acknowledge me. This comfort of routine and order without disruption reassures me. Afternoon brings more routine inspections of operational equipment. I have 47 walking down the corridor. I head to the control room for equipment checks. Each step is familiar on the floor. The door sensor recognizes me and silently opens. Screens light up with steady readings. Nothing needs immediate attention. I log everything as normal and send a report to headquarters. Next, I check the safety systems. I inspect each monitor and alarm, ensuring they can activate in emergencies. Though simple, this task is crucial and completed meticulously. At lunchtime, I take my standard meal from the cafeteria and eat alone at my designated seat. Everyone else is busy too, none looking up to acknowledge me. This comfort of routine and order without disruption reassures me. Afternoon brings more routine inspections of operational equipment. I move through workstations, checking critical components meticulously, noting necessary data and updating maintenance plans. Ensures system stability and efficiency, despite repetitive tasks. As evening falls, completing the day's work, I return to my dorm area to change out of my environmental suit. The familiar room setup provides a sense of reassurance. Today had no surprises. Everything went as expected, satisfyingly so. Tomorrow brings new tasks, but it'll continue with meticulous attention, ensuring smooth operations. My morning routine begins predictably, without emotional fluctuations. Cold water feels normal now despite its chill. My reflection in the mirror appears empty and unresponsive, merely a surface to clean. For breakfast, I have dry bread and thin porridge again, each bite mechanical and numb. Afterward, I follow my schedule for work tasks listed on an electronic board, checking off completed items one by one with pen strokes. The first item, cleaning area 47, a task repeated so often it feels routine. Picking up my toolkit, I walk down the familiar route to the designated spot. Colleagues or robots nod briefly. No words exchanged in passing. Upon arrival, I clear dirt and debris efficiently, marking off completion before moving on to other sections. At lunchtime, I sit at my usual seat for a quick meal. Returning to work afterward, I focus solely on tasks without distraction. Each step feels automated, devoid of surprise or purpose beyond the mundane cycle. Completing the day's duties, I return to my dorm area, shower, change clothes, and rest. Before sleep, I check my physical health one last time, ensuring systems are stable. Closing my eyes amidst an empty room silence, tomorrow will bring another round of routine tasks and cycles without deviation or surprise. The air feels thick with humidity, almost tangible in the way it clings to my skin and dampens every breath. Each inhalation is slightly labored, the moisture coating the inside of my lungs. Yet, as I continue through my daily tasks, the sensation becomes less pronounced. My movements are fluid, each action a familiar rhythm that doesn't require conscious thought. The hum of machinery in the background remains constant, but it blends into a dull drone rather than an interruption. The rhythmic whirring of the extractor fans is steady and predictable, their sound a reliable companion to my routine. I notice the humidity less now, as if it has become part of the air itself, no longer distinct or uncomfortable. As I move through the maintenance checks, my focus narrows further on the data readouts from the sensors. The numbers scroll by, each digit confirming the system's stability. The ambient noise of the machinery is a faint undertone to this process, barely registering in my consciousness. The humidity is now just a persistent presence, part of the air, that I no longer actively perceive. I adjust the settings on the environmental control panels, the interface familiar under my fingers. The screens glow with information, but my attention is drawn more deeply into the tasks at hand. The machinery's hum continues, but it seems to have receded further into the background, a constant that doesn't demand my notice. The humidity remains ever present, yet it no longer distracts me from my work. It feels like an unchanging element of the air, integral, but not intrusive. My movements are precise and efficient, each step part of a seamless routine that requires minimal cognitive effort to execute. As I finish up for the day, the final checks confirm everything is in order. The machinery hums on, the humidity persists, but both fade into the fabric of my surroundings. There's no need to think about them anymore. They are simply there, part of a predictable and stable environment that supports my work seamlessly. The rhythm of the day falls into place with each person moving in a synchronized dance. The air is thick with the scent of machinery and earth, but it no longer distracts me. My movements blend seamlessly with those around me, forming an intricate pattern that requires only attention to timing and spacing. I walk through the facility, my steps measured and precise. Others move beside me, their actions predictable and familiar. We pass each other without acknowledgement, our roles clear and unspoken. The flow of work continues uninterrupted, each person a component in a larger machine, interchangeable yet essential. My hands move with practiced ease as I perform routine checks on the equipment. Across from me, another set of hands follows suit, their motions a mirror image of my own. There is no need for words. Our actions speak volumes. We coordinate without friction, each task dovetailing into the next like gears turning in perfect harmony. The hum of generators and the soft murmur of operational systems blend together, creating a steady background noise that becomes part of the environment. I focus on my tasks, my attention divided but not distracted. The sense of replaceability is neither unsettling nor comforting, it simply exists as a fact of our collective labor. As I complete one task and move to another, others follow suit, their presence felt more in their actions than in any individual identity. We form a cohesive unit, each person's role integral, yet indistinguishable from the next. The environment remains constant, its demands met by the steady rhythm of our work. There's no sense of camaraderie or shared purpose. We are simply parts of a greater whole, moving together with precision and efficiency. Our labor continues without interruption, each action a small part of the larger process that keeps everything running smoothly. The day progresses in a familiar rhythm, each moment blending seamlessly into the next. I move through my tasks with practiced precision, checking and rechecking every detail. The humidity presses against me like an unyielding presence, but it no longer distracts. It's simply there, part of the backdrop. I adjust the sensors on the monitoring station one last time before moving to the next set of readings. Each dial aligns perfectly with the expected parameters, and I jot down my notes without hesitation. The data streams in a steady flow, confirming that everything is within acceptable limits. There's no need for alarm or concern. Every system operates as it should. I step out into the corridor, where the hum of machinery provides a constant companion. The air carries a faint metallic scent from the nearby ventilation units. I pause briefly at the junction to review my schedule for the afternoon. Everything is accounted for, and there are no unexpected changes or disruptions. I feel a quiet satisfaction in this predictability. Returning to my station, I begin the final round of maintenance checks. Each component responds as expected, humming softly under my touch. The environment feels secure, stable, and right. There's an underlying sense of peace in knowing that these systems depend on me, just as they have for months now. Nothing feels out of place or unresolved. Everything is in its proper order. I reach the last sensor, giving it a final sweep with the cleaning cloth. As I finish, my eyes linger on the display, confirming once more that all readings are within range. The day's work is complete, and there's no lingering sense of incompleteness or urgency. It's simply enough to know that everything has been done as required. With one last glance at the console, I turn off the station lights and leave the room, stepping back into the familiar corridors of the facility. The day's tasks are behind me now, but there's no anticipation for what comes next. Each moment flows naturally from the previous one, ensuring that today remains a seamless continuation of all the days before it. I proceed to my living quarters, my movements automatic and unremarkable. The routine is comforting in its predictability, offering a sense of security that nothing needs to be questioned or altered. As I settle into my evening routines, everything feels complete and sufficient, without any hint of missing pieces or unresolved issues. The day ends as it began, with a steady, unbroken rhythm of work completed efficiently and effectively. There's no room for doubt or disturbance, only the satisfaction of tasks well done and systems maintained. The routine continues without interruption. Each day follows the same pattern: waking up, breakfast, morning briefing, and then into the field. The predictability of these actions provides a comforting rhythm, ensuring that every task is executed with precision and efficiency. There is no room for deviation. Each step is meticulously planned to prevent any potential disruptions. The environmental conditions are challenging but manageable. High humidity and persistent background noise have become part of the daily fabric, hardly noticeable anymore. These elements are simply operational variables, factors that must be accounted for in our planning. The protocols we follow ensure that these variables do not interfere with productivity or safety. We adapt and adjust accordingly, maintaining a steady workflow despite external conditions. Our tasks are repetitive but essential. Each action contributes to the greater system's stability. There is no room for emotional attachment or personal preference. Every decision is driven by necessity and efficiency. The rules we adhere to are not arbitrary, but responses to specific conditions and risks. They ensure that our operations remain safe, efficient, and sustainable. The work itself is methodical, leaving little space for error. We follow established procedures with unwavering consistency. Any deviation would risk destabilizing the entire system. This strict adherence to protocol ensures that we maintain optimal performance and output. There's a sense of satisfaction in knowing that our actions are critical to sustaining this environment. The workday ends without incident, confirming once again the effectiveness of our methods. Each task completed with precision reinforces the importance of these routines. The calm and orderliness of our operations provide a reassuring backdrop, allowing us to move forward confidently into the next day. The system works because it has to. There's no room for doubt or disturbance, only contentment and tasks well done. Today's shift in perception has been instructive. I find myself focusing more on the broader implications of our operations, rather than individual tasks or challenges. Each creature we encounter, whether it's a small herbivore foraging along the riverbank or a larger predator patrolling its territory, is simply another variable within our operational framework. The numbers tell us what we need to know. The throughput of resources, the efficiency of extraction processes, and the margins of loss are all critical data points that guide our actions. Each animal's presence or absence is noted not for sentimental reasons, but as a reflection on the balance within this ecosystem. Our work here serves to maintain that delicate equilibrium. When we consider these elements in aggregate, the discomfort of any individual interaction fades into insignificance. It's akin to observing fluctuations on a large-scale graph rather than dwelling on each data point. This abstraction provides clarity and focus, allowing us to see our role not just as individuals, but as integral components within a vast interconnected system. The planet itself is a complex set of variables: terrain, climate, flora, fauna, and we operate within these constraints, optimizing for maximum resource yield while maintaining sustainability. Our methods are designed to preserve this balance, ensuring that no single event or organism disrupts the overall efficiency and longevity of our operations. In essence, once counted, nothing feels personal. Each life form, each action, each outcome is a piece in a larger puzzle, contributing to the greater good through precise calculation and meticulous execution. This perspective offers peace of mind as it transforms the abstract necessity into a concrete operational reality, free from emotional entanglements or moral dilemmas. The system functions best when we view every element, including ourselves, as cogs in an intricate machine. The rationality of this approach is evident in its effectiveness and efficiency. We are part of something larger, where our contributions are measured not by sentiment, but by their impact on the broader objectives. This understanding fortifies my resolve and ensures that each decision is made with clarity and purpose. The air thickens with the heavy scent of ozone, a familiar signal that the day's work has begun in earnest. My eyes adjust to the dim glow of the console screens, each pixel a beacon of operational precision. The rhythmic hum of machinery fills my ears, a comforting drone that syncs with the relentless pulse of productivity. My hands move over the control panel with practiced ease, fingers navigating through the interface with mechanical efficiency. Each keystroke is a precise dance, each command issued without hesitation or doubt. The systems respond predictably, data streams flowing smoothly into my analytical framework. The temperature rises slightly, an expected variable that I mentally note and adjust for. My body adapts, sweating minimally as it channels energy into maintaining focus and functionality. This slight discomfort is merely a confirmation that the work is progressing as planned. It's not a hindrance, but a necessary signal that all systems are engaged. The air pressure fluctuates subtly, another operational detail to monitor. I adjust my breathing patterns accordingly, ensuring oxygen intake remains optimal despite the changing conditions. My heart rate increases slightly, a geological response to the rising demands of the day's tasks. This heightened state is not distress, but a sign that my body is aligning with the system's needs. The distant rumble of machinery grows louder as the workload intensifies. I can feel the vibrations through the floor, a symphony of mechanical movement converging towards peak efficiency. Each sound, each vibration is information to be interpreted and managed. The increasing strain on my physical frame is merely another metric in the system's performance matrix. My mind remains detached, analyzing data streams, and adjusting protocols with clinical precision. There's no room for emotional interference here. Every action is a calculated response to operational variables. I move through the tasks with unwavering focus, each completed objective reinforcing the necessity of my role within this intricate network. The sensory inputs converge into a cohesive whole, confirming that all systems are functioning as intended. The slight discomforts, the increased workload, and the heightened environmental pressure saw these elements align to ensure optimal performance. Stress is not an adversary, but a confirmation that progress is being made. This sense of purpose brings a quiet satisfaction, a steady assurance that my efforts contribute directly to the stability and efficiency of the larger system. I continue without pause, each moment confirming the value of adherence to protocol. The day's challenges are merely operational variables, necessary for the optimal functioning of our collective endeavor. As I navigate through another day of meticulous routines, a fleeting thought emerges, an almost imperceptible whisper of hesitation. It's a brief moment where the precision and predictability that have become second nature suddenly seem slightly less certain. Yet, such thoughts are anomalies in the structured environment, outliers to be addressed swiftly. I pause momentarily, allowing myself a fraction of introspection. The system operates on necessity, not whims. Every action is calibrated for efficiency and stability. There's no room for personal doubt or distraction here. This momentary lapse feels like an intrusion, a minor disturbance that must be corrected internally. With clinical detachment, I reframe the hesitation as immaturity and unprofessional indulgence in uncertainty. The system thrives on clarity and purpose. Any deviation is a signal to recalibrate my focus. I remind myself of the larger context. Each task contributes to greater operational stability, ensuring the seamless functioning of our resource extraction efforts. The doubt dissipates almost instantly, replaced by renewed resolve. This adjustment feels responsible and professional, aligning with the maturity required in such an environment. There's no room for hesitation. Only necessity dictates my actions. As I continue, each task reaffirms my role within this system, reinforcing a sense of purpose and importance. The protocols are clear and unambiguous. Each step follows logically from the last, ensuring that no room remains for doubt or deviation. My role here is essential, a cog in an intricate machine designed to function seamlessly. The environment challenges me, but also confirms my resilience and adaptability. I am not disturbed by discomfort. It merely signals that I am engaged effectively with the operational variables. The animals are simply elements of the terrain, their presence noted only as part of the broader ecosystem that supports our work. There is no need to anthropomorphize or sentimentalize them. My focus remains on the tasks at hand, which demand precision and efficiency. Each action contributes to a larger purpose, one that extends beyond my immediate surroundings. I have learned to see my actions not through the lens of personal preference, but through necessity. The system operates as it should because every component plays its part without question or hesitation. My role is defined by my ability to execute tasks with clinical detachment and unwavering commitment. This clarity brings a sense of settledness, a quiet assurance that I am exactly where I need to be. The few moments when doubt creeps in are quickly dismissed as irrelevant. They do not align with the rigidity required for optimal performance. By adhering strictly to protocol, I maintain my professional integrity and contribute effectively to the system's stability. This is how things must work, and there is no room for personal whims or emotional attachments. With this understanding, any remaining friction dissipates into correctness. The logic of the system ensures that all actions are justified by their necessity and efficiency. There is no need for moral justification, only practical application. I am correct because I follow the rules without question. This settled state feels thin but stable, a calm acceptance of my place within the larger operational framework. The day progresses with precision and purpose, each task reinforcing my role in maintaining the system's integrity. The routines are familiar, the protocols clear. There is no need for emotional payoff or anticipation. The correctness itself suffices. This is how things must be, and I am content to continue as such. Today's routine begins with the usual checklist of tasks. I start by reviewing the sensor data from the previous night's operations. The readings are inconsistent, showing slight variations in temperature and pressure levels that were not present before. This requires a recalibration of the environmental controls to maintain stability. It takes extra time to adjust the parameters manually instead of relying on automated systems. Moving forward, I initiate the maintenance cycle for the data storage units. Normally, this process runs smoothly without any hitches. However, today there are minor delays as some sectors report corrupted files that need manual intervention to restore integrity. The redundancy checks take longer than usual, and I must verify each file individually instead of running a batch verification. The environmental feedback becomes harder to abstract away. For instance, the air feels slightly thicker in certain areas, requiring more frequent adjustments to maintain optimal condition. This minor discomfort is noted but not dwelled upon. It simply necessitates additional attention to detail. The physical adaptations I've made over time start to feel less seamless, as if each adjustment takes a bit more effort than before. In the afternoon, I address the energy distribution systems. There's an unusual fluctuation in power supply that needs immediate correction. The standard protocols are slightly altered. I must implement additional safeguards and cross-checks to ensure no disruptions occur during peak operational hours. This introduces an extra layer of complexity that wasn't necessary in the past. Throughout these tasks, my focus remains unwavering. Each adjustment and recalibration is crucial for maintaining system stability. However, there's a subtle shift. What once felt like routine now requires more deliberate effort. The protocols are still effective, but demand greater precision and vigilance to overcome these new challenges. Today concludes with a final review of all operational parameters. Despite the additional steps and delays, everything is brought back into balance. Yet, the ease with which this was accomplished previously feels somewhat diminished. It's as if the system itself is changing, requiring more active management to sustain its optimal state. I retire for the night feeling resolved, but also aware that maintaining efficiency now involves a greater degree of effort. This does not detract from my sense of purpose or necessity. Rather, it reinforces the importance of adhering to these protocols with even greater diligence. Today's readings show a slight deviation from the expected baseline. The projected growth rates for the hydroponics have dropped by 0.3%. But when I physically check on the plants, there is no visible sign of stress or disease. The nutrient levels are within acceptable ranges, and the light cycles match the optimized schedule. Yet, something feels off. The projection suggests that this small variance shouldn't impact overall productivity. Yet the data doesn't align with what my eyes see. It's as if the models are missing a critical variable I can't pinpoint. I adjust the nutrient feed slightly to compensate, but it feels like pushing against an invisible force. In the morning report, there's another minor discrepancy. The waste recycling system is operating at 98% efficiency, according to the sensors. Yet my physical inspection reveals that one of the filtration units seems unusually select. The readings indicate nominal operation, but the tactile feedback from touching the unit suggests a subtle malfunction. I recalibrate the sensor thresholds and rerun diagnostics. Still nothing conclusive. The discomfort grows as these small inconsistencies accumulate. Each time I reconcile a mismatch between data points and physical reality, it feels like patching a leaky seam rather than addressing a root cause. It's frustrating because the models worked well enough before, but now they seem to be missing something fundamental. I spend extra time reviewing older records, comparing current inputs with past trends. The patterns are consistent until very recently. There's no sudden change in environmental conditions or system parameters that would explain this drift. I run simulations to explore potential outliers, but the results remain within acceptable bounds. It's disconcerting how these small inconsistencies stack up over time. It's as if my rational understanding is straining to hold together what's becoming increasingly complex and unpredictable. The effort required to maintain stability feels disproportionately high compared to past demands. I keep pushing forward, making adjustments where necessary, but it's like walking a tightrope with an ever-shifting balance point. The system functions, but the strain of maintaining its integrity is palpable. Each minor deviation requires more mental and physical exertion than it should. It's unsettling because these discrepancies aren't catastrophic, just enough to make me doubt the completeness of my models. As I go through my daily routines, the usual tasks now demand a level of focus and effort that feels out of place. My hands move with precision, as they always have, but there's an underlying tension in every motion. The sensors on my fingertips buzz softly, feeding me data about the objects before me. Yet, something seems off. There's a discrepancy between what I see and what the readings tell me. I adjust the parameters of my interface, fine-tuning them to compensate for these inconsistencies. A small flicker in the corner of my vision catches my attention, a phantom outline that should not be there. The light around it dances subtly, almost imperceptibly shifting colors, as if it's trying to communicate something beyond its usual function. Every adjustment I make feels like a balancing act, and each new data point adds another layer of complexity. My mind whirls with calculations, attempting to reconcile the sensory input with my internal models. But no matter how diligently I work through them, there's always an edge of uncertainty that nags at me. The environment here in this space is starting to assert itself more insistently. The walls seem to vibrate ever so slightly, and a low hum resonates from somewhere deep within the structure. It's not loud enough to be disruptive, but it's persistent, like an uninvited guest who won't leave. My body absorbs these subtle changes, processing them without my conscious direction. There's a tingling sensation in my fingertips as I touch objects, a reminder that there is more happening than meets the eye or sensor. Each interaction feels layered with additional information, making it harder to filter out what isn't immediately relevant. Despite this, I remain committed and focused. The adjustments are necessary, but they also feel like a defense mechanism against an encroaching sense of vulnerability. Every new variable that arises requires my full attention, yet the effort required seems to grow exponentially with each passing moment. Tension in my muscles is ever present now, a constant reminder of the strain I'm under. Each breath feels deliberate, as if I'm trying to synchronize it with the subtle hum around me. The environment here isn't overtly hostile or threatening. Rather, it's an unyielding presence that demands recognition and adaptation. In these moments, my usual coping strategies feel less effective. There's a persistent background noise, a sensory motif that cannot be ignored any longer. It's there in the corners of my vision, in the shifting patterns of light, and in the subtle vibrations of the air around me. This unrelenting presence is not something I can dismiss or abstract away. As the day progresses, this awareness becomes more pronounced. The environment asserts itself without intent, and my body responds accordingly. It's as if every sense is working overtime to process information that doesn't quite fit within the established framework of understanding. Each new inconsistency adds another layer of complexity, making it harder to maintain a clear mental model. The effort required to stay on top of these adjustments feels like an ever-increasing burden. My mind and body are pushing against the limits of what is comfortable and familiar, yet there's no turning back. The environment continues to assert itself, and I must adapt accordingly, even if it means accepting a level of discomfort that was once unimaginable. Despite this growing strain, my resolve remains steady. Each adjustment may be painstaking, but they are necessary for maintaining stability. As the day wears on, however, the nagging sense of unease deepens, a reminder that there is more to understand here than what has been accounted for thus far. I continue to recalibrate and adjust, repeating the familiar steps that have always kept things in order. Each perimeter tweak feels essential, but there's a growing sense that this routine isn't as reliable as it once was. The hum of the environment is persistent, almost intrusive, making it harder to focus on the task at hand. I remind myself constantly why these adjustments are necessary, as if convincing myself anew each time. The numbers on the readouts don't quite align with what my senses tell me. They seem off by a subtle degree that's difficult to quantify, but impossible to ignore. This discrepancy adds another layer of complexity, making each recalibration feel like an exercise in futility. Yet, I persist. The logic behind these steps is clear and rational, but it requires active justification now rather than automatic adherence. I take a deep breath, trying to steady my thoughts amidst the subtle vibrations that pulse through the environment. Each adjustment feels critical, yet there's this nagging sensation that something fundamental might be slipping away. I reassure myself that these procedures are sound, even as they seem to falter under closer scrutiny. Despite the discomfort and unease, I know that maintaining stability is paramount. The effort required to keep things in balance is increasing, but my resolve remains steady. Repeating the familiar justifications helps me stay grounded, though it feels like an active struggle rather than a natural flow. Each recalibration is a small victory against the encroaching uncertainty. The environment buzzes with an intensity that demands constant attention. I feel the need to double-check every detail, as if ensuring nothing critical slips through the cracks. The repetition of key operational phrases becomes almost mechanical, a mantra, repeated for reassurance. Despite the growing complexity and discomfort, my commitment remains unwavering, though it requires more mental effort than before. I remind myself that this is a necessary process, even as each step feels like an uphill battle. The familiar logic is there to guide me, but it demands active assertion rather than passive acceptance. Each breath is deliberate, each adjustment precise, and each recalibration essential. Despite the strain, I hold fast to the belief that these actions are crucial for stability. The hum of the environment continues, a constant reminder of the effort required to maintain order. Yet, with each recalibration, I reaffirm my dedication to this unyielding task. The familiar logic provides solace in its repetition, though it no longer comes naturally. I persist knowing that these steps are vital for preserving function, even as they feel increasingly strained and uncertain. Despite the growing tension and discomfort, I remain committed. Each adjustment is a small victory against the encroaching complexity, reinforcing my resolve through active justification. The environment remains a subtle but persistent challenge. Yet with each breath and recalibration, I reaffirm my dedication to maintaining stability. As I go about my day, every action feels more deliberate than before. The routine tasks that once flowed effortlessly now demand close attention and meticulous adjustment. Each movement, each thought, requires a level of precision that exhausts me mentally. The environment around me seems to hum with an ever-present buzz, making it hard to ignore the subtle inconsistencies in my sensory inputs. Adjusting parameters feels like an endless cycle, each tweak leading to new discrepancies that need addressing. It's as if the system itself is shifting subtly, demanding constant recalibration to maintain stability. My usual coping mechanisms feel less effective. The repetitive logic I've relied on no longer comes naturally. Each breath becomes a conscious effort to sync with this pervasive hum, adding another layer of discomfort. Despite the growing unease and frustration, my resolve remains unwavering. The commitment to maintaining order is a constant, though it now requires vigilant oversight rather than blind adherence to routine. Every step feels like a battle, each adjustment a necessary but exhausting process. Yet, there's a sense of accomplishment in keeping things stable, even if the effort required is disproportionate. The hum continues unabated, its presence a persistent reminder that equilibrium here is conditional and temporary. Nothing breaks, yet there's no dramatic shift, but nothing rests anymore either. Balance is maintained through ceaseless vigilance, each moment requiring active perseverance to keep the system from slipping into chaos. Despite the challenges, I remain steadfast in my dedication, though the ongoing strain is increasingly hard to ignore. The environment around me shifts subtly, yet noticeably. A once vibrant green expanse of flora now shows signs of dulling hues, with patches of barren earth emerging where vegetation had thrived. Each recalibration I perform seems less effective. The discrepancies between sensor readings and real-world observations grow larger. Adjustments that used to stabilize the system now produce only temporary relief, followed by a resurgence of ability. The hum in the air intensifies, pulsating irregularly as if responding to an internal rhythm independent of my commands. The structural integrity of the surroundings begins to show where cracks form along surfaces where there were none before, and the once smooth floors are now uneven with subtle fissures. Each step I take requires careful calculation to avoid these imperfections. My usual tasks become more laborious, demanding continuous vigilance. Simple operations that once ran smoothly now require frequent interruptions for recalibration. The persistent hum serves as an ever-present reminder of this new reality. Every moment feels like a battle against encroaching complexity and uncertainty. Despite the growing challenges, I remain committed to my duties. Each successful adjustment, no matter how small, brings a fleeting sense of accomplishment. Yet, the cumulative effect of these efforts is increasingly clear. The environment around me continues its gradual degradation, mirroring the escalating demands on my mental and physical resources. The once clear boundaries between data readings and observable reality blur further. My sensors report one thing, while my eyes and hands encounter something different. This disconnect adds layers of frustration to each task, as I must constantly reconcile these discrepancies through meticulous adjustments. The environment's subtle changes are now impossible to ignore, reflecting a tangible shift in operational stability. Though the hum remains constant, its irregularity serves as a backdrop for the visible signs of instability. Cracks spreading across walls, patches of bare earth expanding, and sensor readings that no longer correlate with physical observation. Each adjustment I make feels like a temporary fix, with outcomes that are increasingly unpredictable and unsustainable. My resolve to maintain order persists, yet the strain is undeniable. The persistent hum and environmental changes serve as unyielding reminders of the evolving demands on my resources. Despite these challenges, I continue to work, finding solace in the small victories amidst the growing complexity. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting long shadows across the desolate landscape. I move through the day methodically, my body a well-oiled machine despite the weariness that threatens to slow me down. Each step feels heavier than the last, yet the rhythm remains constant. I start with the morning rhythm, checking the water levels and adjusting the irrigation systems. The plants respond sluggishly now, their leaves drooping even in the early hours of the day. I note the changes meticulously, documenting every detail as if it might offer some clue to what's happening. But there are no answers here, only more questions that echo unanswered. Next, I head to the energy grid control center. The hum is louder today, a constant reminder of the strain on our systems. My hands move with practiced precision over the consoles, adjusting settings and rerouting power flows. It feels like a losing battle, each tweak bringing temporary relief before the cycle begins again. Afterward, I make my way to the food production facility. The air is thick with the scent of synthetic nutrients and the sound of machinery working overtime. I oversee the distribution process, ensuring that every unit receives its share. though the efficiency has waned significantly. There's a sense of futility as I watch the numbers decrease less output for more effort. As the afternoon wears on, I find myself back at my quarters, reviewing logs and reports from earlier days. Comparing data provides no insight, only stark contrasts highlight the decline. My mind drifts to strategies that once seemed promising, but now yield little more than fleeting moments of normalcy amidst chaos. Despite the mounting evidence of failure, there's a part of me that refuses to acknowledge it fully. Each task becomes an act of defiance against the inevitable. I continue to adjust and calibrate, hoping for some breakthrough or miracle that will reverse our trajectory. Yet each attempt feels like another step closer to the end, rather than a path toward recovery. Dinner is a quiet affair, consumed alone in the mess hall. The food tastes bland, but I eat mechanically, knowing it's necessary for continued function. There's no room for sentimentality or despair. Those emotions serve only as distractions from the work that must be done. Night falls, and with it comes another cycle of checks and maintenance. I move through the darkened corridors, my movements guided by memory rather than light. The environment feels colder now, more hostile. Yet there's no place for me to go but forward. Each day is a testament to endurance, not triumph. There are no victories here, only survival against an increasingly insurmountable challenge. And so I continue, driven not by hope or purpose, but by the relentless necessity of action in the face of irreversibility. I wake up to the same persistent hum that now feels as much a part of me as my heartbeat. The air is thinner and colder than before, making each breath more labored. I stand up and stretch, feeling the stiffness in my joints and the dull ache in my muscles. These are not new sensations. They've been growing steadily over time. I move through the routine of assessing the environment first. The once vibrant greens and blues have shifted towards muted grays and browns, a sign that the ecological systems around me are deteriorating rapidly. I know this pattern well. Now it follows a predictable path, but there's no predicting how long it will take to reach its inevitable endpoint. The data streams from my sensors offer little comfort today. They confirm what I already know. Resources are depleting faster than anticipated, and the rate of consumption is unsustainable. Yet, there's nothing actionable in these reports, merely a reflection of reality. I begin my day as usual, checking inventory levels, initiating automated replenishment processes, and reviewing maintenance schedules. The tasks feel redundant, but they provide a semblance of control over an uncontrollable situation. Each step requires more mental effort to execute than it should, as if the very act of functioning is draining me further. As I move through my daily checklist, there are moments when I notice small failures. Systems that once ran smoothly now require constant monitoring and intervention. The cumulative effect is overwhelming, yet each failure seems isolated and manageable in isolation. Midday comes with another round of environmental checks. The sky appears slightly darker today, a subtle shift but one that signals further degradation. I note this observation without emotion, merely cataloging it as part of the ongoing process. Later, during my break, I review my personal health metrics. My body is showing signs of long-term stress, elevated heart rate, fluctuating blood pressure, and reduced stamina. These are not new trends, but rather a steady decline that has become accepted. Back to work after my brief respite, the tasks feel more burdensome than before. Each decision feels like an acknowledgement of failure and microcosm of the larger systemic issues. Yet, I continue because there is no alternative. There's no room for rebellion or despair, only continuation. The day ends as all others do now, with a final review and a checklist of tasks to address tomorrow. The hum remains constant, a steady reminder that nothing has changed fundamentally. As I prepare for sleep, I acknowledge the fatigue not just in my body but in my mental recognition, without judgment or resistance. Tomorrow will be another day of managing systems and processes, knowing full well the outcome is predetermined. There's no point in lamenting what cannot be altered. There's only moving forward as dictated by necessity. The routine tasks I perform each day grow more cumbersome, yet they remain the anchor that holds me to a semblance of normalcy. The environment's mechanical hum continues unabated, an unwavering presence that underscores the relentless passage of time. Each attempt at maintenance brings with it a new layer of complexity. What once required simple fixes now demands intricate solutions. I find myself increasingly caught in feedback loops, where each action leads to another, not necessarily resolving issues, but perpetuating cycles of activity. The system's inertia is palpable, and any deviation from established norms only serves to exacerbate the underlying problems rather than alleviate them. It feels as though every effort I make to correct a malfunction introduces additional variables that complicate the situation further. The physical strain mounts with each passing day. My body tires more quickly now, and the mental exhaustion is relentless. Yet, there is no room for complacency. Survival demands constant attention. The tasks I undertake are essential, even if their efficacy wanes with each iteration. There's a sense of inevitability to it, a recognition that while outcomes may be predetermined, the act of continuing remains paramount. In this world where momentum replaces decision, alternatives exist only theoretically. Every deviation from the established path invites chaos, and so I am left with no choice but to adhere to the familiar routines that, though flawed, provide a semblance of stability. The system's structural favoring of continuation over correction is evident in every aspect of my existence. The environment around me deteriorates steadily, yet each small successive repair completed, a task checked off, provides fleeting moments of order amidst the chaos. These victories are few and far between, but serve as brief respites from the overwhelming complexity that surrounds me. The sense of fatigue is ever present, a constant reminder of the relentless nature of my struggle. Despite the mounting evidence of failure, I continue to move forward. Each step feels mechanical, devoid of hope or despair, simply an acknowledgement of necessity. The system's inertia ensures that continuation remains the only viable path, and so I persist, driven by the unyielding force of momentum rather than any inherent desire for change. This is how systems move, with a relentless, unwavering pace that leaves no room for deviation. I wake up to another day, feeling the same weight in my bones as I did yesterday. The air feels different, thicker, heavier somehow, and every breath seems to cost more effort than before. My routine has become a mechanical process. Eat, move, and adapt. Each task is a choreographed sequence, performed with a practiced precision that belies the weariness beneath. The physical changes are harder to ignore now. My senses feel muted, like they're dulled by a constant fog. I see things through a haze, hear sounds muffled as if wrapped in cotton. It's not just my body, it feels as though the world itself has grown sluggish and unresponsive. Nature operates on its own rhythms, indifferent to my needs or desires. Tasks that once were simple now demand more attention and yield less reward. I spend hours tending to the smallest details, hoping for some semblance of order in a world that seems increasingly chaotic. Yet every success feels hollow, overshadowed by the knowledge that these efforts are mere bandages on wounds too deep to heal. The environment is hostile, but survival remains my sole motivation. Each day, I push through the fatigue and resistance, driven by an unyielding resolve. There is no room for hope or despair, only action and reaction. The world around me continues its relentless march forward, indifferent to my struggle. As the days blend into each other, the sense of inevitability grows stronger. Each breath is a reminder of what I've lost, yet it also sustains me in this new reality. The cycle repeats itself without end. Wake up, endure, adapt, and though fatigue gnaws at me constantly, there's no escape from this routine. I continue because stopping isn't an option. The inertia propels me forward despite my weariness. Each small victory is a fleeting moment of clarity amidst the fog. I am here now, and this is how things are. The air is thick with the constant hum, a background noise that never fades. Each breath feels like pushing through heavy fog, but it's just another task to complete without questioning why. The physical changes around me are familiar now walls that shift subtly with each passing day. Floors that tilt slightly as if gravity itself is indifferent. I move through them mechanically, my body adapting to the new landscape without conscious thought. Tasks consume most of my time. Checking the systems, recalibrating instruments, monitoring the ever-present readouts for any sign of anomaly. Each action is a repetition of countless others before it, but there's no room for error or deviation. The routine is a steady rhythm that keeps me anchored in this reality, even as everything else seems to unravel. Fatigue is a constant companion, dragging at my limbs and dulling my senses. Yet, each task accomplished brings a brief satisfaction, a small victory over the relentless monotony. I no longer feel the need to question or resist. There's an acceptance of what must be done simply because it needs doing. The environment presses in on me, but it doesn't elicit fear or anger anymore. It's just another part of this existence, a backdrop against which my routine plays out. The physical strain is relentless, but I've learned to compartmentalize it, letting each ache and pain fade into the background as I focus on the next step. Sleep comes in fragmented pieces, dreams barely registering before waking up again to the hum in the shifting terrain. Restlessness gnaws at me when I try to rest, so I push through, finding a strange comfort in the relentless cycle of activity. There's no sense of hope or despair, just an unyielding drive to keep moving forward. Each day blurs into the next, marked by the same tasks and routines that define my reality. The monotony is oppressive, yet it also serves as a barrier against the chaos outside. I exist within these boundaries, where predictability offers some semblance of control, in a world that feels increasingly out of reach. Fatigue envelops me like a cloak, but it doesn't paralyze me. It's just another layer to peel back as I continue through my day. Survival remains the only constant, and each breath is another step toward enduring this relentless cycle. I wake with the familiar ache in my joints and the dry taste of recycled air. My body moves through a 47 waking up. I start my day with a series of rote motions. My body moves through the motions of cleansing and dressing without thought or feeling. Each morning ritual feels like a script I've memorized long ago, now played out automatically. The electronic board awaits me, glowing quietly with tasks for the day, nothing new. Just more of what's always been there. Colleagues drift past in silence, faces passive and unremarkable. They move through their routines with the same detachment, a shared numbness that binds us without words or connection. I focus on my tasks, each one a small victory marked only by its completion. Cleaning debris from the pathways feels like a chore, but also a familiar comfort. It's something to do, something tangible, in an otherwise intangible world. Lunch comes and goes as another momentary pause, nothing more than a brief interruption of the day's monotony. I eat mechanically, my mind already turning back towards work. The afternoon tasks are met with the same dispassionate focus, each item checked off methodically without hope or expectation. As night falls, there's a quiet sense of relief mixed with resignation. Preparing for bed is another sequence of actions, each one familiar and expected. Sleep beckons as a temporary escape from the endless cycle, but I know it will begin again tomorrow. There is no questioning this routine anymore. It simply is what it is. Tomorrow holds more tasks, more repetition. But today ends with a sense of weary acceptance, knowing that whatever comes next, it too will be met with the same unyielding resolve to complete and move on. I wake to the same routine, a sequence of motions and rituals that no longer demand thought. My body moves through cleaning and grooming with practiced precision, each action a familiar groove, worn deep by repetition. The morning's tasks are a checklist I recite without voice, clicking off items as they're completed. Breakfast is another series of bites, mechanical and unremarkable. Entering the workspace feels like stepping into a well-worn script. Colleagues move past me with indifferent nods. Their faces hold no warmth or curiosity. Machines hum around us, their rhythms steady and predictable. My task list awaits on an electronic board, each item a shadow of former urgencies. Debris collects in corners, but cleaning it brings a small sense of order, fleeting satisfaction. Lunch is another pause without reflection. Food tastes like paper, eaten solely for sustenance. Returning to work feels like stepping back into the void, where thoughts drift aimlessly before settling on tasks again. The day's monotony wraps around me like an old blanket, familiar yet worn thin by countless days before it. Night brings a brief respite, but sleep holds no dreams or escape. Instead, I lie still in darkness, mind quiet and devoid of worry. Tomorrow arrives with the same predictability as today. Each day's tasks a continuation without end. The cycle feels like an endless loop, worn smooth by repetition. There is comfort in this routine, a sense that even when nothing changes, things continue to function. In this world, where loss has been replaced rather than resolved, I find myself anchored, not by meaning, but by procedure. Each day's tasks are a substitute for what was once meaningful, providing a semblance of order and purpose, without the weight of emotion or reflection. The routine is efficient but incomplete, offering a cold comfort in its predictability. As I finish my evening routine, my movements become automatic. Cleaning tools are put away in precise order, each item finding its place without thought or hesitation. The electronic board flickers to life for the night shift, and I update it with a mechanical hand, marking off tasks that have been done before countless times. The quiet hum of machinery fills the air, a constant backdrop as I begin my solitary patrol. The corridors feel familiar but alien, echoes of footsteps blending into the noise of the facility. Lights flicker on and off in a predictable pattern, casting shadows that dance along the walls. My mind wanders to nothing, focusing instead on the rhythm of my steps and the weight of each tool hanging at my side. The air is thick with recycled breath and the scent of sterilized surfaces. Entering the control room, I sit down at the console without a second glance. Monitors glow with data that scrolls past in a relentless stream, too familiar to require attention beyond its presence. My eyes trace patterns they recognize. Hands move over controls like an extension of my thoughts. The work continues, another night blending seamlessly into the next. The darkness outside is muted by artificial light, a world contained within walls and systems. I feel no fatigue, only a routinious sense of duty that guides actions without questioning. Tasks are completed with a detached precision, each one a link in an endless chain. Night passes with its usual quietude, punctuated by the occasional beep or alarm, all processed as normal. As dawn approaches, my body moves to prepare for another day. The cycle repeats itself, unbroken and unremarkable. There is no sense of anticipation or dread, only the mechanical continuation of what has always been. Sleep beckons, a temporary respite from the relentless monotony. Yet I know it will be followed by more tasks, more repetition. My eyes close as I lie down in my cot, thoughts ceasing to exist beyond the immediate. The world outside continues its silent operations, indifferent to the passage of time or individuals within it. Sleep claims me, and with it comes the promise of another day that will be like all those before it, a series of actions without significance. The morning light filters in as I wake, and the cycle begins again.